Hello, everybody. This video is a recording from a Zoom class that I taught for Cuyahoga County Public Library on August 11th, 2021. And I recorded my end of the stream, not the whole Zoom call, so just my video stream. And I wanted to record it so that the students who participated in the class could go back and rewatch the footage if they needed to, or if they wanted to. Maybe they wanted to refold some of the models. And basically we made two main models today, two different chompers, but along the way we kind of learned some other things that can be made with the folding needed for making those two models. And at the end, I add a little bonus footage that I just recorded because there was something during the class that I kind of wanted to cover and didn't really have time to. And so I went ahead and did a little recording and tacked that on. So if those of you who took the class are watching, at the very end of the video, I have a little bit of explanation on how to make the classic origami boat using the same folds that we did for the first chomper. So I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I hope to see you down the road. Thanks everybody for watching. Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to today's origami lesson. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm just curious, just give me a show of hands. You don't have to unmute yourself or anything, but I'm curious. Raise your hand if you attended my paper airplane workshop at the beginning of the summer. Was it anybody here? All right, great, cool. I had a feeling some of you might have been there for that. Well, I'm back again today to teach you. Okay, cool, great, great. All right, so I just want to remind everybody that during the lesson, it's best if you keep yourself muted. But if anybody has any burning questions or you get stuck and you're just like really confused, please don't hesitate to let me know. But I'm going to do a really good job at explaining the instructions. So if you listen really carefully and like watch the screen very closely, you should be okay. All right, cool. Okay, I think, okay, here we go. Okay, so today's origami class is all about origami chompers. And there's actually two different origami chompers that I'm going to teach you today. However, there are multiple other models that you are going to learn along the way. It's kind of cool. One of the chompers is basically three models in one. And then the other chomper is actually related to a very familiar origami model that some of you may have even folded before, but I wonder if you even knew that you could turn it into a chomper. Okay, so we'll get to that in just a minute. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to my really nifty overhead camera view so that you can see the table in front of me and you can still see me talking to you at the same time. I think this really helps with understanding origami steps in an origami lesson. And here are the two models I'm going to teach you today. One of them looks like this. This is one chomper. And of course, if you have some markers or some pencils or crayons at home, you could always decorate your chomper, which is always fun to do. I always love adding silly faces to my origami puppets. So this is kind of, I call it, it's a chomper, but it's kind of a puppet in a way. Then here is the other one that I'm going to teach you. And this one. Okay, is anybody else having any problems seeing me? Okay, so it might be an issue on your end, I'm afraid. I'm really sorry. I'm not sure what to tell you. Maybe, okay, cool. Yeah, that's it. Yes. Oh, that is a really good question. So actually here, so let's talk about paper. Let's talk about paper selection. So today we are going to use regular letter-sized paper for the first chomper, okay? This chomper right here is folded from an 8.5-inch by 11-inch sheet of paper. So this is kind of your standard size copy paper or printer paper. It's also the size paper. Usually when you get worksheets at school, it's this size. Also, roughly the same size, and it would work too if you used a piece of notebook paper. Maybe you don't have any just plain white paper, 8.5 by 11 paper, but if you do have some notebook paper, here, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit too so you can see that. Keyboard out of the way. But yeah, so a piece of notebook paper also works. Oops, sorry. I was trying to push my keyboard out of the way and I started pressing a key down by accident. Okay, there we go. All right, okay, so, but if your paper is a different color than white, that's totally fine. So yes, you can use colored paper, but you will need a rectangular piece of paper. Now, when we fold this one here, we are going to use a square piece of paper. However, I'm going to show you how we can turn a rectangle into a square sheet of paper. So don't worry, you don't have to have origami paper, like official origami paper for these models. We can just keep using the same regular white copy paper or printer paper or notebook paper. And I'm going to show you how we can turn this into a square for the second model. We're not going to do that first. First, we're just going to use the 8.5 by 11-inch sheet of paper so that we can make this chomper, the chomper. Okay. Now, okay, cool. I see some of you do have square paper. Now, does everybody have a piece of rectangular paper? A paper that is not, okay, good, good. I just want to double check and make sure. Looking good, everybody. Okay. All right, so by the way, just so you all know, I am recording the stream from my end of things here. So I'm not recording the Zoom call, but on my computer right now, I'm recording my video footage and I can post this on my YouTube page afterwards. And that's actually something really important for you to know because sometimes when you're folding online, it can be a little challenging and sometimes you might get stuck, or maybe you want to refold the model. Maybe you had a fun time folding it during class and you're thinking, maybe a few days go by and then you think, I wonder how I fold that chomper. I can't really remember all the steps. Well, if you need help remembering, you can go to my YouTube page and you can rewatch this class and you can go back and refold everything. Okay, so that also goes for if like you're having technical difficulties right now. I'm really sorry if you are. If you're not having any luck watching this, you will be able to watch it on my YouTube channel, which is Fold Space Origami Studio. If you just go on YouTube and look for Fold Space Origami Studio, that's where you will find it. And we'll talk about that some more later. Okay, so we're ready to begin. Thank you all for your patience. We're going to begin with the rectangle, okay? We need our rectangular white sheet of paper. Well, it could be any color. Mine's white, so it doesn't matter if it's what color it is. But our first step, so you see how I have the paper oriented. I've got the short edges of the rectangle oriented at the bottom and the top, and the long sides of the paper are on the right and left sides. So basically the paper is oriented in pretty much the standard way that you normally see things printed on paper, or like the way notebook paper is arranged. So our first step, we're going to take the bottom edge, okay, and listen very, very carefully to my instructions. Now you might kind of think, oh, I know how to do this, but really listen to what I'm saying because you might learn some really great origami tips. I'm full of really useful origami tips that will help you improve your origami skills, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the bottom edge, the short edge of the rectangle, And I'm not really thinking about folding it right now. All I'm thinking about is taking the bottom edge and I'm gonna lift it up on the table. You see how I leave it on the table? And I use 2 hands and I lift it up. And before I even think about folding it, I'm going to try to line up the corners and the edges as best as I possibly can, okay? And now I'm not folding yet, remember, all I'm doing is trying to align the top layer with the layer beneath it. And once it's lined up, you see how I'm holding the paper? I haven't even started folding yet. And there's an old saying that we use in origami. Well, I don't know how old it is, but I've been using it for a long time. And that saying is hold before you fold, okay? So I'm just holding the paper down on the table, okay? I haven't even started folding it yet. I'm gonna hold it with one hand, and here's how I'm gonna make my fold. I've got my holding hand, and then I have my folding hand. So here we go. I'm gonna take my folding hand, and I'm going to come down the middle. You see I'm kind of pulling down the middle to make my fold? This is a good way to start your fold, is kind of pulling the paper down. And I use my whole hand and the tips of my fingers, and I just kind of get it started in the middle. And once I've got that crease started, watch what I do now. I'm going to now, I don't really have to hold it at the top anymore because I've got the crease started, but I'm going to finish my crease by going from the middle to the outside, to the right, back to the middle, and then to the outside on the left. So I came down and out for making my crease. And it is usually, almost always, not always, but almost always a good idea to have nice sharp creases when you fold. Now I'm going to show you something. Now I've got a little tool here. You could have any marker, you could have, it could be, I don't know, any number of things. And watch this, watch what I can do. I can take the side of the marker and I just leave it on the table, and I'm just pushing down along the crease. And that helps make a really sharp crease. Sharper than what you can get just using your fingers. So that's another professional origami tip for you, is you can use something like a marker, or I don't know, I think markers are a good bet. And what's kind of nice, this particular marker I have, yeah, a highlighter, really any kind of marker, Crayola marker, a pen, or even a pencil works. It's not crucial, but if you have one sitting around, might as well use it. You just let it sit flat on the desk or on the table, and you run this along. Now, by the way, if you happen to be, like, maybe you're sitting, I can't really tell. Sometimes when I have classes with students, they might be sitting on the floor. And if you're sitting on the floor, it's still good to have some kind of hard surface in front of you. It would be really hard to do this on a soft surface like the carpet, okay? Okay, so I know I just talked a whole lot about folding a piece of paper in half, but it looks like everyone who I can see on camera did a great job folding your piece of paper in half. So what I want you to do, let's leave our paper folded in half, okay? And I'm going to rotate the paper now so that we're looking at another rectangle once again, and just as before, I've positioned it so that the short edges of the rectangle are at the bottom and the top, and the long edges of the rectangle are on the two sides. And it doesn't matter if the creased edge is on the left or the right. Yes. Okay. I wonder, sometimes when it freezes, it could be on my end, but it could also be on your end sometimes. So, but do you have this piece of paper folded in half? Okay, good. All right, great. Is it free? Is it still frozen? Okay. Is anybody? Am I frozen for anybody else? Oh, okay. Do you have any other programs open on your computer right now, or on the device you're using? Okay, yeah. Sometimes if you close the other stuff on your computer, it helps Zoom run a little bit better. Because Zoom is kind of it uses a lot of power on your computer usually when you use it. So, all right. So hopefully we don't have too much more freezing going on for you. But if so, just kind of bear with me. And again, remember, you can also watch the video again once I post it. But hopefully you'll be able to understand what's going on. Now, once again, I've got the paper folded in half, and it doesn't matter if the crease is on the left or the right. Okay, I'm really sorry. I don't know. It's probably, it might just be the connection on your end, which there isn't really much you can do about. So just kind of sit through it, and let's just see if it gets, hopefully it gets better. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you because I don't think it's happening elsewhere. So I know sometimes that happens. That's one of the unfortunate things. I really wish I could just be in a. I wish I was in a classroom right now, like face to face with all of you right now. That would have been different. But here we go. Let's keep going. Now we're going to take this smaller rectangle, and we're going to do the same thing that we did before, where we're going to take the short edge of the rectangle at the bottom. We're going to take that bottom edge, and we're going to bring the bottom edge up to the top edge. Now, on the side where the crease is, it might get a little funny, so you might have to kind of roll the paper a little bit. And I always like to use my hands and my fingers to kind of roll the paper up. But once again, we just line everything up. We don't even fold it yet. We just line up the bottom edge with the top edge, and you hold it, and then you fold it. And I like to come down the middle once again, and then go out to one side, back to the middle, and out to the other side. So we've just taken a rectangle piece of paper, we folded it in half once, and then we took that rectangle and we folded that in half. And here we are. And once you've made your second fold, we are going to unfold that second fold, but only the second fold. We're still going to keep the first fold where we folded it in half the first time. So, and by the way, in origami, we actually have a term for this. When you fold a piece of paper in half, we call it a book fold. Well, when you fold it in half into a rectangle, it's a book. It's called a book fold. Okay, so I'm just going to leave the first fold folded in half, but now we have this new crease that we just made in the paper. And I want everyone to take your little half sheet of paper. I want you to set it up so it's not going to want to stay, but set it up as if it were a tent on your table. All right. And it doesn't have to stay standing up, but the reason I want you to have it on this side is because I'm going to tell you about mountain folds and valley folds. In origami, when we're looking at the crease, when it's kind of coming up and at you, like it's the top of a mountain, we call that a mountain fold. If you were looking at the side where it's like, say you're pretending like you're reading a book, we call this a valley crease. And if you look at the side of the paper, it even makes the letter V for valley. How convenient. And a valley is what you find between two hills. Oh, yeah, it does. Yes, and you know what? This form shows up everywhere. Like you see it in so many different places and objects in the world around us. So it's pretty cool. But I want you to flip the paper over so that we are on the side with the mountain crease, which is the side that's coming up and at you. And here's the other thing that I need you to do. Now, this rectangle that we're looking at has 4 sides. I'm talking about the whole piece right here. One of those edges has a crease. One of those edges is a creased edge, actually. So for this next step, I want you to make sure that if you were to close the paper, the 2 edges would be meeting at the top and the creased edge is at the bottom. It's really important for the next step that you have the creased edge of the paper at the bottom here where I'm running my fingers. Can everybody see that? The creased edge is on the bottom of this rectangle right here. And the open side of that big book fold is at the top, okay? So when we do this next step, we're going to be using these creased edges. And if you're using different edges, it's not going to work. It won't work if you're coming from up here. You need to be coming from down here, okay? So here's the next step. What we're going to do is we're going to use this mountain crease as a guide. And we're going to line something up with this middle crease. So here's what I'm going to do. And in fact, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can get a better view here. Here we go, I'm zooming in. Okay, once again, I've got the creased edge here at the bottom. And here's what I want you to do. First of all, remember how we had our holding hand and we had our folding hand? Well, once again, we're going to use our holding hand. And you see I'm holding the paper. Now the line, let me see here, where's my little pointing tool? Oh, I'm sorry. Like I said, you're just going to have to kind of wait for it to unfreeze, but I'm going to try to go slow, okay? So the crease line is going up and down here, and my finger is just to the side of that crease line. And over here on the right side, it's free. There's nothing in its way. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this creased edge, and I'm going to take half of the creased edge from the corner to the crease. And I'm holding it just to the side of that crease so that I can take the outside corner and I'm going to bring it up. You see how I'm bringing that bottom edge from being horizontal side to side to being vertical. And what I want you to try really hard to do, just try the best you can, try to line up this creased edge with the crease line down the middle, okay? So that line goes right down the middle, and this edge, that bottom edge, is going to line up on the crease line. And it's going to make a triangle. We're going to put it in place, and we're going to fold it. Yes? So look here. So the bottom edge from the corner all the way to the middle crease, that bottom edge is going to come up to meet the vertical crease, but it's not going to come all the way up to the top edge. There's still a little bit of space up here. There's still, yeah, that's about an inch, exactly. Yeah. So the guide is the crease in the middle, okay? If you've ever made a paper airplane before, there's a really good chance that you have made a fold that is very similar to this, okay? And just like making a paper airplane, we just did this on the right side. Now we're going to do it with the left side. That's right. So we're going to take the entire edge from the corner to the middle. And once again, I'm going to hold it. Now the paper is folded a little differently, but I still need to hold the paper down with my holding hand. And so then I'm going to take the bottom corner, the side corner, and I'm going to bring it up to the middle to meet the other edge that I just brought to the middle. Those two edges should be right next to each other along the center crease line, okay? Now, I just want to double check with everybody right now, because remember I was making a big deal about the creased edge being on the bottom? I want you to make sure that once you fold those two corners up, you can still get in between these two layers up here at the top, okay? You don't need to actually get in there, but I just want you to make sure that this is the open side at the top, because oftentimes, sometimes students get a little turned around and they might do what we just did from these edges where there's two layers. So just double check. It's okay if you got a little turned around. You can just unfold it and do it with the other side, okay? So I just want to try to make sure that everybody did that from the correct side, because we still need this to be able to open up at the top. Okay, so feel like we're doing pretty well here. Let's keep going. Now for the next step, I'm just going to spin the paper a little bit. I'm going to rotate the paper so that it kind of looks a little bit like a house or a tent, or it kind of reminds me of like a big church or a synagogue or something like that. It's almost like a big building. Yes, exactly, yeah. Okay, so That is how I want you to have your paper in front of you on the table. And here are the two corner flaps. We just folded them down. Those are up here. Okay. Looking good, everyone. So far, so good, as far as I can tell. All right. Now, for the next step, I want to draw your attention to, I'm going to kind of put these down a little bit so you can see a little bit better. But you see this kind of long rectangle shape that's formed just beneath the two triangle flaps that we just folded. Just want to draw your attention to this big rectangle. For the next step, what we're going to do, we're going to take that long rectangle, and while this time we're kind of holding and folding with both hands at the same time. So both hands are holding hands and both hands are folding hands, and I'll show you why. I'm going to use my hands, I'm going to kind of hold those triangle flaps down up here at the top. But my thumbs are still free. My thumbs and pointers are going to be kind of in charge of the folding part, while my other fingers over here are kind of in charge of the holding part. And what I'm going to do now, you should have two layers down here, okay? There's a layer on top and there's a layer underneath. I want you to make sure that you only take the top layer, and while holding down those triangle flaps, kind of use your thumbs to kind of push this flap up as far as those triangle flaps will allow the paper to go. And they're only going to go up about that far, okay? But the bottom edges of these triangle flaps are going to be what stops the paper from going up too far, okay? It's only going to go up that far, but there it is. There's that same rectangle shape that I was just tracing, but now it's gone from being down here to being up here, okay? And just make sure that you only do it with one layer. Leave the bottom layer on the table because it does look like a hat. And as a matter of fact, that is the first of 3 formations that this model is going to take on. Now, oh, a boat. Well, you know what? That's the second model that this origami piece is going to transform into. So you'll see how in just a second, but you're absolutely, both of you, whoever said that, maybe both, yeah, you're absolutely right. So let's go to the next step though, okay? See some of you layering it on your head already. So what we're gonna do now, I just folded that rectangle up. Now what I want you to do, we're gonna, you know, you've probably never done this, but if you're cooking a pancake on the stove, halfway through cooking the pancake, get your spatula and you flip it over to the other side. So I'm going to take the model and I'm going to get under it like it's my spatula, my hands on the spatula, and I'm going to turn it over to the other side. So now we're on the back side now. So we flip it like a pancake. And for the next step, we are going to basically repeat the same thing we just did on the last side. However, the paper looks a little different right now. Like we don't have those triangle flaps to stop us like we did before, but that doesn't mean we still can't fold that bottom edge up. Remember that long rectangle that we folded up? Well, it's here, and here's how we can do that. We can take the bottom, take that edge from the bottom, okay? And once again, I'm kind of holding it and folding it at the same time with both hands. But if I take that bottom edge up, you can line it up with the flap that's behind it. You see these edges up here in that corner, those two corners right here? You can just bring that bottom edge up and just kind of line it up with what's behind it. If you folded it up as far as it could go on the first side, well, you're in good shape. Just try to line it up with the flap behind it. Okay? And now you all can see how this kind of looks like a hat. And in fact, if you had paper, like we can certainly like try and set it on our head, but the paper's a little too small for a hat that's going to stay on our head. But if you made it with bigger paper, like say you had a piece of newspaper, you could make a hat that way. And I think that's something that people used to do a lot back in the day. By the way, if you remember how to make this, you could also kind of go and you could decorate. Here's some hats. Oh, cool. Nice. Here's some hats that I decorated. I decorated one so it looks, and these are kind of the same. They look kind of like crowns with jewels on them. And then of course I had to make a sailor's hat too. Because I love drawing anchors. I think anchors look really cool, and I love the way I love drawing them. Okay, so that's it. But we're gonna take this hat and we're gonna keep transforming it. It's gonna keep going, and you will see how eventually this hat, now this looks a little different, but this is the same model. This is the boat that this model can turn into, okay? So it's not, I mean, this kind of looks like a boat, but we're gonna keep going, but then it's gonna really look like a boat here in a minute. Well, it won't really look like a boat because we're not gonna go that route, but I'll show you how you could do it. Okay, now, for this next step, so we've got this thing that looks like a hat, right? And hopefully, if you did this the right way, you have an opening underneath at the bottom where you could kind of open this up a little bit. Now, if you don't have an opening, maybe you folded the two flaps to the same side. That's one reason why you might not have an opening. Or maybe there was a step earlier on that you were kind of turned around, but hopefully you've got an opening at the bottom. Okay, now we're going to do a little modification to this that is going to help us when we do the following step. Okay, so everyone watch really closely what we're going to do. Okay, first, and we're going to do this on the front, and then we're going to flip it over and we'll do it again to the back. We're going to do a little something to this rectangle that we folded up, this long, skinny rectangle, okay? So here's what we do. Is everybody ready? Just give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Great. Okay, cool. And everybody's got the hat, okay? Just want to double check. Okay, cool. I think we're good. All right, thank you. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now watch this. I'll zoom in even a little bit further, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that rectangle and I'm going to unfold it for just a second, okay? And like I said, we're going to do this on the front and the back, but only just focus on one side at a time. I'm going to unfold that rectangle flap. Now, we're going to fold the right and left corners in a certain way, okay? And here's how I want you to do it. I'm going to start on the right side here, okay? Now you see this little bit of this edge from here to here. I'll kind of trace it with this from here to here. This vertical edge, excuse me. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take that bottom corner and I'm going to fold it up. Excuse me. So that vertical edge, pardon me, please. Sorry. Now that vertical edge is going to meet the horizontal edge. It's going to make a triangle. It's going to meet this other edge. So that corner is going to go up. Okay. You will see where I took this corner and I folded it up, and the edge that was going on the side here is now matched up with this horizontal line. Okay. And I'm going to do it on the right corner. And then I want to do the same thing on the left corner over here. So once again, I take that little side of that rectangle and I grab the bottom corner and I bring the corner over to meet this horizontal edge that's just above it. Now, it looks a little different on the front than it does on the back because, of course, on one side we've got these flaps right here, right? So we fold it up to the flap. Now, once you fold those two corners in, I want you to return the flap. I want you to put it right back where it came from, up to here, okay? So those two little corners have now disappeared underneath the rectangle flap. We've hidden them. And I did it on the right and left sides. And now I'm going to pretend like I'm cooking a pancake. Once again, I'm going to get underneath it with my spatula here. And I'm going to flip it over. There's the other rectangle. And we are going to unfold the rectangle. And now, so on this side, we just have a crease line. okay? We don't actually have the triangle flaps, but it's basically the same line, okay? And we could just use it in the exact same way. We take the side edge here, take that bottom corner, bring it up so that the, okay, great. If you've already done it, you can just sit and wait patiently, please. Thank you. So I just took that bottom corner and I folded it up on the right. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the left corner, take that bottom corner, fold it up so that the side edge meets the horizontal edge. And then I'm going to put the paper back. So now we had this hat looking thing that had, you know, it almost had like a brim that stuck out here. Now we've taken the corners of that brim and we've tucked them inside so that now they're hiding. So we should have something that looks, well, you should have just kind of a straight triangle now that doesn't have these little funny things sticking out. And we did that so that we could get those corners out of our way. Okay, we wanted to get those corners out of the way. All right, so start thinking hat once again. I want you to open this up like it's a hat, okay? See how I kind of open it up a little bit like a hat? And here's the next step. Watch this, you're gonna love this. You're gonna take the side corners of the triangle, these two side corners of the hat, and you're going to kind of push them towards one another. And it's going to transform. The model is going to transform from this triangle. We kind of push the sides together and it transforms into a square. Very good. And then we make it flat. So we go from the triangle, I'll do it real quick. We go from the triangle to this really cool square shape. And then go ahead and flatten it on the table. Okay, how's everybody doing? Did y'all get that okay? Cool. All right. You get it, Sadie? Oh, but you know what? I think you're close enough. I could see it on the camera. I think you're close enough. This is a model that maybe the first time you fold it, maybe you find that some of the edges aren't lining up as well as you'd like them to. But I always recommend that you try and refold it again afterwards. And every time you try and refold it, you'll get better and better. Okay, I see a hand up. Krish, go ahead. Oh, cool. You were so close. You have one little thing left to do and you were good to go. So it looks like you've got your hat and you're going to take the side corners of the hat and you're going to bring them down and together, and the model is going to transform from a triangle to a square. So the side corners, we're going to transform them to a square. Did you get that? Yes, exactly. I think that's right. Yes, that's absolutely right. Yes, good. I was just trying to tell him, looks like a tiny little screen. But yes, you're good. And I'm just gonna kind of shift around because we have so many great participants today. Okay. Any issues? It's okay if there were, just let me know. Okay, so now there's one thing I want to show you all. So you see how on my chomper I drew these teeth on the inside of the model, but I didn't actually draw these inside the chomper, okay? Because it would be really hard to do the drawing and stuff while the model is still 3D. So I just want to show you. Now you probably don't really have time right this second to go and color in teeth, but I just want to kind of show you that. Give me a second here. I have to retransform this thing. Okay, so it's this phase of the model. So here's the brim of our hat. That's the long rectangle, okay? This is a good time to draw maybe some teeth if you want to. when you're at this part of the model. Now you can go back. What I recommend, I don't think you should draw the teeth right this second, but I just want to point out that we've got these two strips right here. You see, it's like, you'll see that it's like the brim of the hat that goes up. That is a good place to draw some teeth, and you can draw some teeth and just kind of fill in around it. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to draw teeth. You can make them kind of sharp and spiky if you want. That's up to you. But yeah, so this is, yeah, that's where you're going to, this is a good form to make the teeth in. Okay, so this would be nice, like if you were watching this video later, you've already made it, you kind of know what's coming up. This would be a good time if you're watching my video of this to pause the video and do any kind of decorating inside the mouth that you want to do, okay? All right, so let's keep folding. Yours only has what? Oh yeah, it always comes. Yeah, right. Yeah, so then after that, you could choose to not add any teeth. Or maybe it's like a bird beak, and birds don't have teeth. So, well, not in the traditional sense, or whatever that means. Anyway, so, okay, so cool. Yeah, I guess birds don't really have teeth though. I mean, they might have little serrated like edges of their beaks a little, but I don't, those aren't teeth. That's different. So not what we call teeth. Okay, yeah. All right, moving on. So let's go on to the next step, everybody. Let's keep folding, okay? Now, we've got this really cool square. What a cool looking square that we just made from a triangle. And I want you to make sure for the next step that the open side of the square is at the bottom, okay? And the closed part, or the top tip of the hat, which was the hat, is at the top right now, okay? So the closed end is at the top. The open side is at the bottom. And you know, it's funny, it already kind of looks a little bit like a mouth. Like we're already getting into Chomper territory here, which is really exciting. Okay, so we've got our little mouth. We want the open side pointing down, because for the next step, what we want to do, now we've got some layers that we've built up here. So you really got to grip the paper with two hands. And I like to push it down on the table. And oh, that's funny, Amy, because yeah, that's funny. It is kind of like almost like a face mask. You can make your own origami face with this form. That's pretty cool. Okay, so anyway, not to get too distracted here, because I could easily get distracted with this. But so we've got the open side at the bottom. I'm gonna grip the paper. Okay, we're in the square form. I'm gonna take the bottom corner of the top flap, and I'm going to take that bottom corner and I'm going to fold it all the way up to the top corner. Okay, so I go to the bottom, top, but I'm only doing this one side. Okay, bottom corner goes all the way up to the top corner, and we push it down and we make our fold. Okay, so we just took that bottom corner and we folded it up to the top corner. And some of you might be thinking, maybe we do this on the other side. Well, you're absolutely correct if that's what you were thinking. So we're going to cook a pancake again. We're going to get our spatula. We're going to get under the pancake, and we're going to flip it over front to back. And here's that bottom corner where the two flaps are kind of coming down and meeting. These the two sort of flaps to make the brim of the hat. We take that bottom corner, and it's really important that you really grip all of those layers. You want to kind of pinch all the paper layers together and hold them together while you fold it, because when you do origami and you have lots of layers built up, or even just like a couple layers, even just two, sometimes when you try to fold it, the layers kind of slide around a little bit. So we want to try to keep those together as best as we can. So we take that bottom corner and we bring it up to the top corner, and hey, it's starting to look kind of similar to what it did before. So now we've got an even smaller triangle. Okay, and guess what? Because we folded the flap up on one side, and I see some of you have figured this out too, we folded the flap up on each side. Well, we still have an opening in the middle, and looky here, now we got a little tiny hat. It's a lot smaller. But we actually do want to kind of open up the paper a little bit. like a hat, right? Because this is very similar to what we just did. Oh, Matthias is on to something here, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're going to take, so I've got my triangle hat. Yeah, now it's a small COVID mask. Let me see. Okay, wait, I'm trying to see who is, oh, is that you, Aubrey? Oh, okay, I see you, Aubrey. Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right, let me see what you got. Yeah, I can see you. Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah. I got you. So here, so what you're going to do, your little teeth, I see you got some teeth drawn on here. So the teeth are on the bottom 2 rows here. You're going to take the point at the bottom and bring it up to the point at the top, but only 1 layer. But you're going to kind of hold all the layers together, but you're going to, does that make sense? Okay, good. And so you do it on the front, and then you get your spatula out and we flip it over to the other side, and we do the same thing. The row of teeth down here at the bottom, that gets folded up to the tip top of the shape, and you should have a small triangle. Okay, good. Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad you got it. I'm glad you asked too. I mean, it's doing origami in a video is like kind of challenging. But look here, do you see, can you all kind of pull the corners down a little bit and make it into another hat? Well, guess what? Remember how we did it all the way? We took those side corners and we pushed them all the way down, okay? So we're gonna take the side corner. Okay, so Matthias, it looks like, I want you to, for a second, so you're definitely onto something here, but what I want you to do, I want you to go back to where it's all flat. Can you do that? Or maybe just even do it with just one of them. I see you had 2 models there. Just do it with one of those. And, okay, so once it's flat, okay, good. So I want you to kind of get underneath it like it's a hat and take those 2 side corners, and we're gonna bring them all the way together, and we make another square, and now it's an even smaller square. It's made up of these 2 triangles, and it's getting thick. We got a lot of layers, so you gotta have to squish it down a little bit. Yeah, no problem. So we went from this little small triangle. Do you have the small triangle? The small triangle hat? You take the side corners of the small triangle hat and you kind of let the hat open, and you bring those 2 corners down and let them meet each other. And then the paper goes from being 3D to being kind of flat again. And when you turn it back to its side, it's this smaller square shape. Did you get it? Did that make sense? I'm looking around. I'm not sure who, I'm actually not sure who asked that question, but yeah, no problem. Okay, so now, do you have this? Do you have this triangle hat? Okay, that's where we went and we folded, you know, those 2 corners up. We folded it up on this side, and we folded it up on this side. Do you have that? Okay, good. Now, if you pretend like it's a hat again, and if you get underneath it, you can see, you can kind of open, you kind of pull the front and the back of the hat apart from one another. Are you able to get that? Okay, good. Then these 2 side corners, we're basically going to kind of smush them together. We're going to kind of keep pushing from the sides. And then once it flattens, the new shape it flattens into is this square shape. Cool, I think so. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep track of all the Zoom windows. But yeah, I think, yeah. So is this what, do you have what I have? Okay. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, great. Okay, so we're almost done. We're actually at the final step where we form the chomper. And yeah, I know, really exciting. Now, I will also point out that when it comes to drawing like an eye or eyes on the chomper, this is a good stage to do that as well, okay? Now, you want to make sure you do it, so if you put it on its side so it looks kind of like Pac-Man, this model is kind of like a 3D, like geometric looking Pac-Man anyway. So if you want to draw eyes of any kind, you might want to put one on one side, and then you see how I flip it over, and then I've got one just behind it. You want the eyes to basically be like right on top of each other, okay? And if you want to go ahead and draw an eye now, this is a good time to draw. I mean, it doesn't take long to draw an eye. Maybe you want to add a little eyebrow at the top. So basically this is kind of like a side view of the chomper. So the eyebrow, if you were to draw an eyebrow, would be kind of at the top. Okay, so now this next part, I'm going to warn you, is a little tricky, okay? But it just takes a little bit of practice, okay? Or just like, you just kind of have to try it a little bit. But it's really weird because like the paper is going to do something really strange, okay? So I'll do it with both of these. I have two examples here. I'll do it once and then I'll do it again. So if you don't get it on the first try, just wait and be patient. I'm going to show you again. And then if you still don't get it, then I could try to help you, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. So I've got just like before, the open side of, it kind of looks like a mouth that's open. You want the open side to be at the bottom, okay? But you still want to kind of keep it flat for a second here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of pinch up here at the top, all right? And up here at the top, I'm kind of pinching on both sides. And look what happens if I kind of peel those corners back, okay? You don't have to do it all at once. Just give it a little, just to kind of like, I don't know, do a little bit and maybe let it go back. Just kind of get used to the feeling of it opening up a little bit, okay? You want to make sure the whole thing is still kind of flat when you start, okay? So make sure the whole thing is flat before you begin peeling those two corners apart. But as you open this up all the way, you're basically opening the mouth. Now there is a center flap. There's this corner flap on the inside of the mouth that starts to move as you pull those two corners apart from one another. And it kind of wants to keep going back. And as you pull those two corners back, go ahead and push that middle flap down. And actually, I'm going to put it down flat on the table. Okay? So you're just from the side, but I'm going to kind of open it up and I'm going to take that corner and I'm going to push this down flat on the table. So the inside kind of looks like a square, but I've got these two like other corner things sticking out. But basically, if you kind of put your hand inside the model and kind of push it back a little bit and let it bend and close the mouth, that gives you the chomper. Now, I'm going to do this again on the other model. Okay, so just watch me again if you didn't get it on the first try. It might take a few tries, and it's okay if it does. Maybe also you might get to the end and be like, I want to refold this. I want to start over. That's totally fine too. That's normal. I can't tell you how many times I have done that when I fold origami. That's a normal origami thing, even for professional origami people like me. But I'm going to do this again here. I've got the open side at the bottom. I'm going to take the two corners up here, and I'm going to kind of start to pull them apart. And as I open it up all the way, that corner in the middle wants to kind of sit down and go flat here. Okay? And then what's going to happen, yes. Oh, good, we lost somebody. Okay, no problem. I can get you back. So let me finish explaining this. I can see where you're at. I think I can help you pretty easily. Let me just finish this one thing I want to say. So here it is. It's like I've opened it up. That corner, I'm going to push it back. There's one thing we can do. That corner that's inside the mouth, it doesn't really want to sit down. It kind of wants to stick out normally. I mean, you can kind of push it back and bend it a little bit, and then it kind of stays. But if you drew, maybe you drew teeth. You see how my teeth are kind of hidden under that corner? Well, guess what? I can take this corner, and if I lift it up enough, there's a little flap here. Yes, yes. I had a feeling that happened. That's okay. Here, give me just a second. I was in the middle of explaining something. Let me finish explaining this and then I'll help you out, okay? So we can take this corner. I'm just talking about this like middle corner flap that shows up. You can hide that corner underneath this layer where I've got the teeth drawn. You see how we can make that corner kind of disappear underneath there? It's a little crowded, but it still kind of works and it gets it out of the way and it keeps it from kind of getting up and getting in your way. Okay, so, all right, so I've got a couple other people who asked for help too. So let me see, I'm gonna help everybody out here as best I can. Let me see. So let me change mine for a second here. Let me go back a few steps. Okay, so the student with the purple paper. Do you want me to help you now? All right, so okay, yeah. So actually, yeah, can you show me what you've got on the screen for a second? Let me see. Yeah, can you put that in front of the screen? Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of tough. Okay, good. Okay, good. Stay right there. Oh, looks like you got it. Okay, good. Okay, yes. Okay, so wait, so yeah, so you folded that one corner up on one side and then you turned it over and you folded that corner up here and now you have the small triangle hat. That's perfect. Yes. Then you take the side corners of the hat and you kind of squeeze them together until you get this little square. Perfect. You're doing great. Now, I'm going to hold it so that the open side is at the bottom here. And at the top corners here, I'm going to kind of pinch it. And I'm pinching it on the right and left hands. And then I'm going, watch, I'm going to kind of gently pull back. Perfect. And you see that corner in the middle? What you're going to do, kind of set it on the table, set it down flat, and take that corner in the middle and kind of make it sit flat. Then you basically have the chomper made if you pick it up. Now here on the back, what you kind of have to do, you have to kind of put your hand inside the chomper's mouth and push back a little bit. And that's going to give you the hinge. It's like a hinge in the back. And then that gives you the chomper. And then the thing that I was talking about when you just came back, that corner inside the mouth, that's kind of, you know, sticking out on the side here, you can hide that. Once it's flat, you see it can sit there flat, but you can hide it if you pull it up a little bit and there's a layer of paper just underneath it that you kind of have to pull it out and you kind of have to, the paper gets a little funny for a second, but if you kind of move that corner flap in the middle inside, then you can kind of hide it away there. And it's a little crowded. The layers are kind of competing for space right now, but just kind of, I use my thumbnails and I kind of push that back a little bit. And there's that first chomper. Good job, everyone. Yeah, everyone can show. I want everyone to show your chompers. Let me see. Everyone hold up your chompers to the camera. I see some of your chompers are having a meal. That's great. You're chomping down, chowing down. Yes, because this goes till 3:30. So we have another half an hour. Yeah, and the next, and you get a bonus half hour. Hopefully you can stay. I hope you can stay for it. Oh, by the way, here I want to show you. I have this really special chomper that I made. I made it out of special paper. Check it out. It has a cloaking device. Look at that chomper. Whoa, it's kind of weird looking. It's a weird. I know it's because it's like almost like it's invisible. Weird. You can see the shadows, but you can't really see. That is very strange. It's because it's special paper. Yeah. It's like super special secret paper that you can only get it in certain parts of the world. Yeah. Here, what? This. Hey. Oh, okay. All right. So here. Just having some fun here. Okay. So guess what, everybody? We're going to fold the other model. And so here's what we're going to make. But guess what, everyone? So this is what we're going to make now. But guess what? I want to show you something. Yeah, let's see it. Oh, nice, Aubrey. That looks awesome. Wow, I love it. Everyone, you all did a fantastic job. Good job, everyone. All right, I just love them. I love them so much. Okay, so by the way, who's ever seen this model before? Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. This is the classic, the all famous, yes. Cool. This is a classic origami model. The fortune teller has been around for many decades, maybe even over a century. We don't really know. But what's really cool about the fortune teller, also sometimes known as a cootie catcher, because you can catch bugs with the tip of it because it's a nice fine point. You can pick bugs off of something. Anyway, I think that's actually why they call it that, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it's also known as the fortune teller. But watch this. We can take the fortune teller, and this is how we actually make the second chomper for today. It's basically, again, 2 models for the price of 1. Oh, there's something, there's something, well, anyway, I'll cover that at the very end. But okay, so here, now you might, I know a lot of you have made these before. Maybe you made them and you forgot how. I'm going to walk you through it. Pardon me. Even if you folded one of these before, I recommend you follow along and don't go ahead, because there might be some steps along the way that you wouldn't normally do that I'll show you that you can do that really, really help make an awesome, high quality puppet, little fortune teller puppet that chomps. Okay, so now if you already do have square paper on hand, maybe just use that. Okay, but if you only have rectangle paper, I can show you how you can turn it into a rectangle. So I'm going to zoom out so you can see better here. Okay, so now you can see that full sheet just like I had before. Okay, now if you have a pair of scissors handy, you might want to use those. Scissors are not my favorite way to cut squares out of rectangles, but for the sake of time, I think it's probably the best way to go. Okay. The problem with scissors is that they don't really make a very accurate cut. And it kind of helps to have a very accurate square if you can. So just try to, when you do this next step, just try to be as accurate as you can. Don't get frustrated if it's not accurate, because it does take a lot of practice, but just do the best you can, okay? I think you can make it work. And remember, you can always retry it again later if you need to. Okay, so like I said, if you already have square paper, you can just use that. If not, here's what I'm going to have you do. And some of you might already know this trick. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take the short edge at the bottom of my rectangular piece of paper, and I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to take the side corner, and I'm going to bring that short edge at the bottom over to meet the vertical edge on the side. So I'm going to take this bottom edge, and you see how I kind of bring it over from the bottom to the side. So what I want to do, I want to line up that bottom edge with the side edge all the way down the side to the bottom corner. And I'm just going to kind of ease it in to place. And I want to try my very best to end up with the crease when I fold it that hits the corner of the paper right on the nose, okay? I'm trying to see. I think so. I'm not sure who said that. Sorry, I was trying to look. Yeah, okay, looking good. Yeah. I also like that some of you are recycling. You're reusing paper that already has stuff on it. That's a great idea to use. Like, yeah. So okay. So before you do any cutting, let's just make sure we got a nice crease that meets the corner and that the edge is lined up. If you need to adjust it at all, go ahead. Now, but to answer your question, yes. But before you cut, I want you to consider a few things. I want you to try and cut slowly, okay? And try your best to stay on this edge of the triangle flap that we folded, but also try your best to not actually cut the top layer. Sometimes you kind of end up cutting it a little bit accidentally, and that's okay. So just do your best. You go really slow and really try to carefully make the path of the scissors cut right along the edge of the triangle. We're gonna go all the way up to the top. And you know what? There's so many rectangles of paper all over the world. There's probably like millions of rectangles around you in your house. Maybe not millions, but you know, just old worksheets that you're done with at school. Or don't go cutting your homework into origami though, origami paper. But okay, so I've got this little rectangle. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. I have a square now. Ooh, nice, Quinn. I like how you did that. So now what I'm going to have you do, yeah, I almost forgot that. You know what, by the Quinn, I'm so glad you did it. I totally forgot that that's, yeah, that is so cool that you found it. I love happy accidents like this because, yeah, just real quick, I just want to show you because I saw somebody else do this recently in a class that I taught because I teach this chomper to a lot of people. This is so cool. If you could take your chomper and if you open the mouth up all the way and kind of flip it back, you get like another kind of puppet. And let's see, like if you drew eyes on it, now the eyebrows look like they're like bags under his eyes. Like, I'm so tired. I haven't slept in days. Okay, so, all right, cool. Okay, so here we go. Let's get through this because I want to run out of time. Now, this isn't going to take as long, but I still want us to go nice at a good pace so that we're making accurate folds, okay? So let's fold our chomper, our fortune teller chomper. Now, if you are using square origami paper that you didn't have to cut, yes, because I know some of you already have square paper. I want you to go ahead, if it has a white side and a colored side, start with the white side facing up and fold one corner from the bottom up to the corner at the top. What's kind of nice is if you cut this from the rectangle, you already have that fold, okay? We've already done that fold from cutting it, but if you're starting with the square, I want you to go ahead and fold the square in half into a triangle. All right, very good, everyone. Let's move on. I'm going to spin. Oh, you know what? Size is not important. It does not matter how big it is as long as it is a square. So as long as as long as all four sides of the sheet are the same length, and you have 4 right angles. That's what makes a square, okay? So I want you to put your paper on the table like this, almost like it's like a play button, like you're about to watch a video or like listen to some music. You know, listen to some music. We got the play button. So now I want you to open the paper so that the crease that we just made is running up and down. We've opened the paper so that the crease is running vertically, okay? And now we're going to take the bottom corner and we're going to fold it up to the top corner. So we're making a new crease. Yes, this is the new one. We take that bottom corner of the square. Were you able to cut a square? Yes. Oh, no. Yes. Did you make the fold yet? Okay, maybe you haven't. Okay, here, let me just show you real quick. No worries. It'll only take a second, and you'll be all caught up. So, I took the short edge of the rectangle at the bottom, and I brought it over to meet the long edge so that the crease goes all the way down to the bottom point. And that makes a triangle that is half of a square. Then just very carefully cut the rectangle off of the rest of the paper. And then you'll have a square, and you'll have what I've got here, a square folded in half along the diagonal. And I opened up the paper so that the crease is running up and down vertically. And now I'm taking the bottom corner and I'm bringing it up to the top corner so that I'm folding it in half along the other diagonal. So everybody, I want you to do this. We're going to fold the square in half, but we're making a new crease, okay? So by the time we're done, we folded it in half one direction, and then we folded it in half another direction, both of them along the diagonals of the square. Yeah, it is kind of like a kite. It also spins like a top. All right, now, next. So we folded, unfolded, folded, unfolded. Now, remember we're cooking pancakes? I want you to get underneath the paper with your spatula and flip it over so that you're looking at the 2 mountain crease sides. Now, hopefully, oh yes, Matthias. Okay, cool. So I can't hear you, but it's okay. I'm just going to tell you what we did, okay? So you fold it, you've got one of the folds, right? So then you're going to open up the paper and you're going to fold the other 2 corners together. There you go. Good job. So we folded the 2 diagonals of the square, and then I flip it over. And so the 2, it doesn't have to, but it doesn't have to stay up because we're actually going to flatten it. But you do want to be looking at the side with 2 mountain creases. Remember, we're talking about mountain creases. Now we're looking at the sides of the fold where they kind of come up. But we can flatten it. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bottom side of the square, and you have to kind of push down the paper in the middle. I'm going to take the bottom side. I'm going to fold it up to the top side. So I'm folding the square in half into a rectangle. I'm going to use the same exact technique as before, where I take the bottom edge to the top edge, and I keep it on the table. It can take some getting used to fold on the table, but I tell you, once you get used to it, it's like you almost always want to be folding on the table. I line everything up. I hold before I fold. And I always like to slide my hand down the middle when I start my crease. And then I go all the way out to one side on the right, and you do it in any order. Then all the way from the middle to the outside on the left. Okay? And now, remember we're talking about book folds? Okay, class, open your books to page 2. Open your books to page 2. Just trying, we're about to start the school year here. Let's get used to like opening our textbooks. I'm sure you all are thrilled. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think that's correct. I think so. Okay, wait. Actually, here, let me see again. Okay, I'm sorry, Aubrey. Go ahead. Show me one more time. Yep, that's exactly right. Good job. Good job. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. No problem. So I've got my book fold, and I want everybody to open your book. So now the book fold we just made, this valley crease is now going up and down. And I want you to open the book, and I want you to take the bottom edge of the open book, and I'm going to kind of smooth it down in the middle. I'm going to take the bottom edge of the open book up to the top edge of the open book. Bottom edge to top edge. And I'm going to hold before I fold. And I'm going to kind of do my crease down the middle. Yes, Quinn? Oh. Wow! Quinn, that rules. That is so awesome looking. Nice. Good job. Yeah. So you're right, though, right? This thing that we just made, look here. Now that we've folded the second book, what's kind of cool is if you hold it down here at the creased edge, it kind of moves like a chomper, and it kind of, moves around like a fortune teller already. You can kind of see how the fortune teller comes out of this, right? Now, this very thing that we're holding is also known in origami as the square base or the preliminary base. And this is one of the very important bases in the Japanese tradition of folding paper. Of course, origami itself, origami is a Japanese word with its roots in Japan. Of course, people have been folding around the world for centuries, but really the Japanese were the ones who like really embraced folding paper and made it a cultural thing that they started calling origami eventually. It wasn't even always called origami. But this is a very important base. So watch this. You can even put it on the table and like a tent. And if you push the center in until it pops a little bit, it pops. Then if you kind of bring it all together, now you don't have to do all this. I'm just kind of showing you how we can play around with the paper a little bit. You can bring all these together and it makes it a triangle shape. And this is called, in origami, we call this the water bomb base. So really you get two bases for the price of one with this fold. And you can always go back to the other one. You just kind of pop. It's all about how the center is oriented. So then once we get that, then you can kind of close it again this way. But you don't have to close it, okay? Don't worry if you're not sure how you close it. Don't worry, because we actually want to open the paper and make it flat on the table once again. But there is one, I want you to be on a certain side. I think it helps to be on a certain side for this. I've got the two diagonal creases. Remember we made the play button? Go ahead and like put your paper, close it like the play button, okay? I want everybody to just go back, and you might have to kind of pop the center a certain way. Okay, so just like pop it however it needs to go. But I want you to make sure you have a play button on the table, and I just want you to open the play button. And now the diagonals of the square are valley creases, okay? You want to be on the side where the diagonals of the square are valley creases. Okay, now let's keep going in the interest of time. I think so. Yeah. You want to be looking at the two valley creases, okay? And then the creases that we made for the book folds, these are both mountain creases. And here's the next step. Now, if you've made a fortune teller before, this is going to seem familiar to you, but I want you to wait for my instructions. I want you to take the bottom corner, and you see where all these creases intersect right in the very center of the square, and we've got some lines here. We're going to take that bottom corner and we're going to bring it up so that the edges of the flap meet the creases, and the center or the corner of the flap will just barely come up and just basically just kind of kiss the center. It just kind of comes right up to it, okay? So I'm going to bring that up and I'm going to make a fold. Now don't do anything else just yet, okay? So I bring that one corner up, okay? Now, we are going to repeat this now on the opposite corner. So I'm going to spin the paper around like so. And now it looks like a really cool looking diamond or a Superman logo or something like that. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did with this corner with the opposite corner, okay? Notice I'm doing the opposite corners as the first two corners. So I do one corner, and then I do the opposite corner, and now it looks like this. Good, everyone. You all are doing great. Now I'm going to spin the paper so it looks kind of like it looks like a gemstone of some kind, like an emerald or something. And now we're going to take the other two corners, but I always like to go from the bottom. So now I'm going to take the bottom corner and I'm going to bring it up, and now it'll fit just between the two flaps we just folded. Now you want to try your best to not let this overlap any with the other two. Sometimes you get a little bit of overlap, and that could come with maybe your square wasn't perfectly square to begin with, maybe, or your paper wasn't perfectly square, maybe your folds weren't totally lined up in the centers where they needed to be, but that's okay. That just kind of comes with practice. So, but those are a couple reasons why that might happen. So now it looks kind of like an envelope, like you're getting some mail. Now I'm going to spin it around so I can do the same thing with this corner. And I just find that this method, by doing opposite corners and then the other two corners, gives you much better results than if you were to go around in a circle. Now you can do this however you want, but take my word for it. Doing opposite corners and then the other two gives you a better result. Okay, now in origami, when we fold all four corners to the middle of a square, we have another name for that too. We call that a Blintz fold. Blintz. You'll see that in origami books or in origami videos. They'll talk about a Blintz fold. They'll be like, okay, make a Blintz fold. And that's where all four corners go to the middle. And Blintz is named after a type of food. There's a type of food called a Blintz. It's kind of like a pastry it's like dough, kind of like wrapped around some kind of filling, okay? I believe that's what it is. Anyway, I can't say I've ever had a Blintz. Okay, now, speaking of food, let's get our spatulas out and now this is one of the most important steps. If you forget to do the step for the fortune teller, it's not going to work. So we got to make sure before we go on to the next step that we get underneath the model and we flip it over front to back. And now we've got a smaller square here, okay? Once again, we're going to do a Blintz fold, and I want you to use the same steps as we did before. Start with the bottom corner. I know I'm starting to get hungry also. I try to avoid talking about food when I teach origami because I'm always starving by the end of it, but that's okay. We're almost done. I can go get a snack after this. I'm going to take the bottom corner and I'm going to bring it up to meet the center, but I'm not so much looking at the corner in the middle as I'm looking at the crease lines. Like I really want to kind of sit, and it's okay if you're just sitting just below the crease line. You don't want to overlap it any. So, all right, so I just did the bottom corner. I love seeing everybody's chompers. Now I'm going to do the opposite corner second. So I'm going to spin it around. I'm going to spin it around. So I'm going to take this opposite corner as the second corner. And I fold that up to line up with the crease lines in the paper. Oop. And now I'm going to turn it like an emerald. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other two corners. And you'll see, it's nice that this flap will just kind of fit inside the two flaps that we just made. And we are going to be right on time here. This is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to spin it around because I always like to fold from the bottom up. That's just my preference. I think that you get the best results by folding up and away from yourself. So once again, bottom, final corner, fold that up. And now we have done another Blintz fold. The fortune teller is basically taking a square, you fold it in half a bunch of times, you do one Blintz fold on one side, you flip it over and do another Blintz fold, and here we are. Now, you could, to go the fortune teller route, what you would do is from here where we just folded all four corners, I would recommend you fold the whole paper in half like a book. You do a book fold, and it kind of helps to do both book folds. You know how we've been doing this before? We did this before. We fold, unfold, fold, unfold. So the four corners are meeting in the middle. You do a couple book folds, and actually, if by folding it the way we folded it, the paper is going to kind of naturally kind of turn into the fortune teller, which is pretty cool. Okay, but that's the fortune teller. I'm going to show you the puppet. So I'm going to make it flat again, so it's that small Blintz fold, the small square from the Blintz. Okay, so I've opened up the book, and I'm going to flip it to the side. I want you to look at the side where you have these four square flaps. Okay, so we still have four corners meeting in the middle, but we've got squares. We've got a square here, we've got a square here, here, and here. Okay, so here's how we make the puppet. Now, by the way, if you want to draw a face on it, this is a good time to do that. So I'll show you how I like to draw. This is often how I like to do mine, okay? So on the top, I might draw, and again, you can do this however you want, but on the top, I might draw two eyes. Maybe I'll make this one cross-eyed. I'll put the pupils in the middle. And I made one eye a little bigger than the other. That's always fun. It feels a little crazy. So then we're going to give it a little nostril. I'm going to give it two little dots for nostrils. But again, optional. Then, if you want to add a tongue, you could add the tongue down here. And, okay, yes, Matthias. Okay, cool. What's on the other side? Okay, I think you got it. Yeah. So that side that you're showing me, that's the side I'm looking at right now. Yeah. Does that make sense to you? Does that seem okay? Is the side you're showing me, are there layers? Can you peel them up in the middle? Okay, yeah. What about on the other side? Yep. Okay, you're right. You're absolutely. You've got it. Yeah. So that's what that's the side I'm looking at here. So let's form this because we're right at the end here. So what I'm going to do, I've got these four squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take the top corner and I'm going to fold it down. Okay, so I'm folding through all the layers and I'm taking that top corner and I'm folding it down. Now, by the way, if you haven't drawn your face, that's okay. You can just go ahead and form it. It's easy to make it flat and form it again. Okay, now, you see how if I hold it on the sides like this, and then if you kind of push together, now I haven't pulled the face out yet, but if you hold those two triangles and kind of push this open, it kind of transforms, kind of like our hat transformed. Remember, so we got the triangle and then the square, the triangle goes to a square. So basically, that is the mechanism for moving the mouth. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the top flap where I've got the face, the eyes and the nostrils, and I'm going to get underneath it, and I'm going to pull it out. And I'm gonna kind of make a nice mountain fold down the ridge of the face. But then if you kind of squeeze the sides and then push it together, that's what gives you this really cool puppet. Now here's a tip. I advise that when you're moving it, that you hold it on the side corners of the mouth. You see where I'm pinching it like right up next to the head here? Otherwise, what tends to happen if you just try to move it here, it just kind of, it moves inside and it doesn't move quite as nicely. So if you kind of pinch it and close it right at the corner, and there you go. A little flapping puppet. It kind of, I feel like this reminds me of like a pterodactyl or a bird. Those are like kind of, that's kind of where my imagination goes when I see this. But there you have it. A squirrel. Oh, cool. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love your little squirrel face. Yes. That's great. All right, everybody, let's see your chomper. Or oh, okay, yeah. Let me show you again. So to make it go, I recommend you look at it, like make it face you. Okay, let me see here. So I'll go back to this part for a second. So it's flat. I've got the 4 squares here. You fold along the diagonal into a triangle. Then if you pick it up and if you kind of squeeze these 2 triangles on the side and kind of push them together, see if you can get the middle to open up. Are you able to do this? Oh yeah, you got it. You're doing it. Okay, so then what you're gonna do, these 3 corner flaps, they're gonna stay as valley folds, but then the flap at the top in the middle, you're going to kind of get underneath it and you're gonna pull it out. And again, the other 3 corners here, and this is actually the water bomb base that we just had a second ago. But there's one, the top flap is just kind of pulled out. And then if you close it and hold it like so, I think you have it. Yeah. And here's the last thing I'll show you. So then you see how I'm kind of pinching it right, I'm pinching the layers and I'm holding it right next to the head. I'm kind of like pushing it, I'm pushing against the sides of the head. Now, I'm going to move my fingers towards each other. Okay, so you just kind of, you see my hands are kind of apart, together, apart. Yeah, there you go. And it makes a nice little like tapping sound. And I love how the edges of the head, like of the mouth, they all line up with each other because they're basically from the same shape, from the same geometry, you know. But there it is. You're welcome. Thank you all. You all did a fantastic job. If everyone wants to hold up your, let's see, yeah, hold up your chomper or puppet. I want to see everyone's. All right, hello again, everybody. Now, thank you again for following with me today. Now, there's something that I left out during the main class that I meant to cover, and I kind of ran out of time to talk about, but let me switch my cameras here. Oh my goodness, there's a mountain of origami here. Okay, here we go. So the thing I wanted to show you is I never really finished talking about how you can get the boat out of the fold that we made for making the chomper. So I want to show you how you can do that. Now there's a slight modification that we're going to make for it as well. Okay, so now remember here, let me just kind of back up for a second. So remember we folded the first of 2 hats here. Okay, we had this hat, and then we hid these corners. We folded this down and we tucked each of these side corners in, and we put this back up here. And then I do the same thing on the back. I open this up and we tuck the little side corners in here. And now we have, once again, another hat. It's the triangle hat, okay? And so we have taken the side corners and we have brought them together. And now we have this. And this was the part in the class where we drew the teeth. If maybe you drew some teeth here, maybe not. But okay, so if you want to make a boat that looks like this, we're going to basically do the same thing that we did with the chomper, but there's one slight difference, okay? Now, when we folded the chomper, let me zoom in a little bit here. When we folded the chomper, during this step, we took open sides at the bottom, we took this bottom corner, and we folded it all the way up to the top corner. Now, for the boat, if you want to make a boat that has a little bit of kind of a top here that sticks out, here's what you need to do. We take that bottom corner, but we don't bring it up all the way. We only bring it up part way. So there's still a little bit of space. Now, this isn't an exact distance, and however far up you fold it kind of determines how much is sticking out here at the top. So I take that bottom corner and I fold it up about to there, okay? And we call that a rat fold in origami, where rat stands for right about there, okay? So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my spatula out. I'm going to flip the pancake front to back. And I want to do the same thing to the other bottom corner here. And I want to line it up with whatever I did last time. So, you know, it's a rat fold. It's not any particular place. It's right about there. So, but this time I actually do want to try to match it up with the fold underneath it. Okay, so by lifting this flap up, you can see that edge. So you just want to kind of line that up as best as you can, okay? So I get that there. One of the important things is that we just make sure this point stays on this center line. So I bring that up here and make it flat, okay? Now the paper looks a little different than it did before. Before we folded all the way up, we had a whole triangle. Well, we're still going to treat this the same way as we did before, where we kind of open it up like a hat. So here's the open side down here. I'm going to kind of open it up, and I'm going to take the sides of the hat, and watch this, I'm going to squeeze them together. And then you end up with this, which is kind of cool, kind of like a Viking helmet or something like that. Okay. So once again, I went from here to that same thing we've been doing all class, where we kind of open the hat, we take the sides and we just squeeze them together, and then we look at the side here, and it looks like this. And then to make the boat, we take these corners right here, and just like how we opened the chomper, but this time it opens up in a different way. Watch this. If we pull those apart, I think somebody in class, I think, was already kind of onto this, but I'm going to pull this out, and then you basically want to just kind of pull it out until it goes all the way out. And it's almost kind of like the mouth of the chomper opening up, but this time that corner inside, it stays kind of in the middle and sticking out. See? And then I could go ahead and flatten it. And we have a classic origami boat. And this is another model that I think has sort of been around for quite a long time. I couldn't tell you when people first started folding this boat, but I think it's been many, many years. But there you have it, the classic origami sailboat. All right, thanks again for folding with me, you all. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.